GoFundMe has provided an update on the Freedom Truckers. Turns out they're going to be stealing $9 million that was supposed to go to their cause. We're going to take a look at the statement from GoFundMe and dissect it a bit, but we're also going to learn how to file a complaint against GoFundMe in the state of California. I'm going to break that down in greater detail. Please feel free to use the time codes down below to jump ahead if you want to just go ahead and learn how to file that complaint, because we do have a little bit of deep dive to do right now. We're going to start by looking at the statement that came out from GoFundMe. They, of course, were available for some period of time to gather funds that they were able to sort of hang on to in suspension. But today they posted this on February 4th. GoFundMe supports peaceful protests, and we believe that was the intention of the Freedom Convoy when it was first created. When they first came to GoFundMe, it was a good cause. Now it's not, though. They say, we now have evidence from law enforcement that the previously peaceful demonstration has become an occupation with police reports of violence and other unlawful activity. And of course, we've spent a lot of time on this channel in 2 prior shows. You can find those up here. And we talked all about this, have spent time covering people who have been on the streets, haven't seen any of that nonsense. But GoFundMe just decided that's the case. They continue. They say, to ensure GoFundMe remains a trusted platform, we work with local authorities to ensure we've got a detailed and factual understanding of events taking place on the ground. Following a review of relevant facts and multiple discussions with law enforcement and city officials, this fundraiser is now in violations of our term of service. We're going to read that a little bit more closely, and has been removed from the platform. Organizers provided a clear distribution plan for the initial $1 million that was released earlier this week, confirmed those funds would be only used for the peaceful protests that they authorized. Given how this situation has evolved, no further funds will be directly distributed to the Freedom Convoy organizers. We will work with organizers to send all remaining funds to credible and established charities chosen by the Freedom Convoy organizers and verified by GoFundMe. So they now get a say in where these funds go. So it's not really the Freedom Convoy's funds. It's sort of the Freedom Convoy's funds, so long as it's in compliance with GoFundMe. Now, anybody who donated through GoFundMe may be entitled to a full refund as long as they get it in there by February 19, 2022. And they give you a dedicated online refund form that looks like this. To request a refund of your donation, please complete this form using the email address you used with your donation. After we receive the request, they're going to be processed and returned within 7 to 10 business days. They give you a deadline of February 19th, so it is coming up quickly, about 15 days. And if you don't get it in, then all of those funds are going to be sent to charities determined by the fundraiser's organizer and GoFundMe. Learn more here. So if you type your email in there, they're going to refund you within 7 to 10 days. Otherwise, it's going somewhere else. And they say that to ensure that GoFundMe remains a trusted platform, they focus on this term of service, right? Term 8. And so let's dive into this a little bit. Before we take a look at how to actually file a complaint, we got to see how they're actually violating the terms of service, or what the best method of attack really is. So many people are saying there's a lot that can be done, but let's take a look now at the terms of service. You can see this is 24 sheets of pages, so it's a lot there. GoFundMe is going to point us to this section, section 8, talking about user content that reflects or promotes behavior that we deem, they say, in our sole discretion to be an abuse of power or in support of hate, violence, harassment, bullying, discrimination, terrorism, intolerance of any kind relating to anything, all of the usual buckets: ethnicity, race, national origin, religious affiliation, sex, gender identity, and so on. And they say it's in their sole discretion. Okay, they don't even need to talk to you about it. It's in their terms of service. In our sole discretion, content that promotes this type of behavior can be thrown off, and it is. And so now people are speculating, well, what can be done about this? If they're going to just run away, basically steal $9 million, yes, there's a number of people that are going to get this notification and request a refund, and they'll get it, but how many are not? What's going to be the conversion rate of people that get a refund? 20%? I don't know. And so people are asking, what can be done? Should we start a class action lawsuit? Should people file individual lawsuits? What's the best process? Well, let's go back to some of those terms of service, because they define and give us some details about where they're going to try to push this case. We can see here that under the process, it says any arbitration. So we've got basically, mandatory arbitration clause in there. And they're saying that a party who seeks arbitration has to follow this process, right? Send it over to our legal department here in California, Redwood City. Arbitration has to describe the nature, the basis of the claim, the dispute, all of that stuff. And so they want to bind you into arbitration in order to preclude you from filing a lawsuit. They also talk about, and so when the supporters of this convoy, of course, created this, right, they agreed to these terms of service. And so they said, here, no class actions. Okay, you and we agree that each may bring claims to the fullest extent legally permissible, and but we have to do it in our individual capacity, okay, not as a plaintiff or a member of any class or representative. So, all the truckers, according to this, now, right, there are ways that you can break this, and I'm not a civil lawyer, but this is something that, right, they're trying to say, you agreed to this, no class actions, and so there's going to be an additional roadblock, an additional barrier if one is brought. And so we have to sort of think a little bit differently about this. Is there an entity who is not a party to this agreement who may think that what GoFundMe is doing is very inappropriate? And I can think of one. Let's start by asking ourselves, where is GoFundMe located? Who has jurisdiction over this entire situation? Well, we got to go to California because that's where they're based. Crowdfunding website based out of Redwood City, California in the United States. Listed as GoFundMe Inc. And we're going to use this when we fill out our complaint. And so it was launched 11 years ago. Now, in the state of California, there is something called the Attorney General. Happens to be this guy, Rob Banta. He is the state's top lawyer and law enforcement official, and his job is to protect and serve the people and the interests of California through a broad range of duties, including safeguarding Californians from harm and promoting community safety, preserving their natural resources, helping with illegal business practices, and other consumer crimes, okay? And so the argument here, GoFundMe is engaging in unethical business practices. Some might even say illegal. I'll save that for the end. And also engaging in something that is analogous or might even be consumer crimes, right? Like a conversion of one person's money for their ulterior purposes. And so many people, I know what you're saying. Rob, it's California. The Attorney General of California, what is this guy going to do? He's from California. He's going to protect all, the tech bros out there in Silicon Valley. He's not going to do a thing about it. But I'm not so sure about that. Let's give this guy the benefit of the doubt on this thing, because there was a story that came out very recently that the same guy is going after the BLM charitable organization over their delinquent and murky finances. And he actually did send a formal delinquency notice about this out to the group, BLM, saying you've got 60 days to file your documents for 2020. Otherwise, you're going to be in big problems here. And so his point of this is that he's looking into charities. He's looking into these types of organizations, donations and fundraising and people gathering monies on behalf of other people like BLM was doing. Where'd the money go? Same question we're asking with GoFundMe. So now that we know who this is, let's take a look at if you wanted to file a complaint, or let's say if I were filing a complaint, not encouraging anybody to do anything. I'm just showing you how it might be done. Of course, this is information that's available all over the place. Go right over to the consumer complaints section at the California website for the Attorney General. It's going to show you something that looks like this. Let's go through it. It's a very easy form. You'll notice up here it's 3 pages, but we'll get through it real quickly. In fact, I actually have a template of this. I filled out most of this for you. It is down in the link below. So you can just download a PDF and you're just going to have to fill in your own information. Of course, if it's applicable to you, I'm not encouraging anybody to do this. I'm just saying if you are looking for this type of information, here it is. So here is what you would do, of course. Very simple stuff. It's a form like any other form. Fill out your first name, middle name, last, mailing address. We are going to talk about sort of priority being, if you are a resident in California, that is perfect, right? If you're a resident in California and you filed a complaint, you actually made a donation through GoFundMe, you're like perfect candidate. And if you're anybody else at any other states or from Canada, right? I still think you can file a complaint because this is about a business that is in the state of California and you're being arguably harmed by that. But certainly, if you like reside in California or you have a friend or somebody that you know that sort of fits those criteria, that would be great because they're going to be voters, right? This is going to be Rob Banta's voters, and so he's going to really look at those, I think, with a little bit more fervor, let's say. And so, of course, you put the city in there, state, California, zip code, county of residence, country, day, phone number if you want, cell phone, and email. Now, be advised that if you put this stuff in there, okay, they may contact you. This is the government. You're giving them your information. They want to know, do you have any disabilities? What's your age range, military status, and anything else like, are you active duty military? Right? Pretty simple. We fill out these forms all the time, not complicated. Again, the link is down in the description below, either for a blank form or for a pre-filled out form. The pre-filled form has this in here. This is stuff that I put in for us. I looked all this up. I'll show you where I got this data at the end of the presentation so you can vet it for yourself. But here it says GoFundMe Inc. is the full name of the company. The address comes from the terms of service verified by Bloomberg. Redwood City, California. We've got 94063 United States. GoFundMe. And then we've got two legal addresses that I was able to find from the various terms of service and various locations on their website. So no phone numbers. They make no consumer phone numbers available, no consumer fax numbers available. But if you have a legal problem, they do have a couple emails. And so that's the contact information. Again, all pre-filled out in the form below. Now, there's a good argument that you could actually email these people and just email them your complaint, right? And just say, hey, I'm upset about this. Can you rectify this? And maybe GoFundMe would do that. Maybe they would reverse this and they would actually disperse the funds over to the truckers, or they would do something more responsible and just automatically refund all the donors, automatically, rather than sort of converting the funds over for their charities that they want to donate to. But that would be an argument that you could sort of make to them through an email. And then what you would be able to do if you did that, or if somebody did that, is when you fill out section 3 of the form, you would be able to use some of that information here. So it's going to be asking us, okay, what was going on? What was the product or the item that was involved? Of course, this is a donation to the Freedom Convoy. So this is a donation through the website. And if you are somebody who did this or wanted to fill this out, you'd of course want to put in the date of the transaction. So go back to your email and see when the donation was made, pull out the date, see if there's a transaction number, put that in there. How much was donated? What was the total amount in dispute? So let's say you donated 100. Well, probably want that whole thing donated to the truckers or sent back. So you'd put 100 in both those boxes. And then how did you make that, right? Did you use a credit card or a debit card? Probably going to be one of those two options because it's GoFundMe. You just throw in your debit card, okay? Any contract or a lease? No, there's no contract there. You did agree to some terms of service and stuff, but there was no signed contract or a starting date, expiration date. And as I mentioned in the previous section, did you complain to the company? Okay, did you send them an email? Or call them? Well, you couldn't call them. Did you do it in person? Of course not. Could you mail them anything? Probably not. And so if you did speak to anybody, who was it? What was their phone number? They don't give you anything. And so you could type in here something like, if you did this, and I don't think you have to do this, to be honest, because they are telling us what their policy is. There's nothing to talk about, really. They've already made a decision. And so here you can say, well, what are the results? Well, they decided they're not going to do what I want them to do. They're not going to fund the truckers. They're not going to reimburse all the funds elsewhere. And so it asks, well, what result would you think would be fair? And I said delivery of the funds as agreed upon or a return of the funds. Okay. And we're going to get into that more because we're going to have a lot more section to fill this out. And so it says, have you contacted another agency about this? And no, probably not. Do you have a lawyer? Probably not. Probably not going to need to get one involved in any of this stuff. Has your complaint been heard or is it scheduled to be heard in court? And answer is probably going to be no on that. And so then we can see a couple quick check boxes. Let's talk about the transaction itself. When you go on to GoFundMe, how'd you do it? Well, I responded to a website, or maybe somebody sent you a link, right? Or somebody said, hey, go here and support it. And so it was either a website you responded to or an email solicitation. So we can check that one off. And you could even say something like invited to support a fundraiser, right? Like somebody else invited me to support a fundraiser because everybody was sharing this stuff. And where did the transaction take place? Happened via computer, if that's what happened to you, right? Could have, I'm not sure if you can donate any other way, but I would imagine you can't. So here we then see important information. So let's pause on this. It says, if the complaint falls within the jurisdiction of a local or federal or state agency, they're going to refer you to them, right? So it's possible that based on your complaint or your details or what state you're from or whatever, they say, we can't help you, got to go somewhere else. And so they say that we also may share this complaint with other government agencies. So they may actually refer your document elsewhere. It says, please include copies of any supporting documents you have, like if you've got a receipt from a GoFundMe, might be good to include that in here. And remember, you're going to print all this out and mail it over to the California office. Do not send the originals, though. Keep copies for yourself. This office does not have the authority to give any legal advice, okay? So they can't represent you. They are just fielding the complaint, and they're going to see if they can help. There's also going to be Section 6. Now, big blank section. You know, a lot of the times these big blank boxes can kind of just, people get stopped right here. And so if I were filling a complaint out, this is something that I would have written in there. And this is, of course, down in the PDF file that's linked down below that you can modify and use if you happen to be somebody who wanted to do that. Not encouraging anybody to do that. But here I wrote, for example, if I were hypothetically filing this, I'd say I made a donation using GoFundMe to support the Freedom Truckers Convoy. I made my donation on this date in the amount of this time. And so when you download this PDF, or if you were hypothetically, right, you would want to change that to whatever suited you. But I learned on February 4th, which is true like today, that GoFundMe decided to reallocate the funds I donated to another cause. The GoFundMe company statement is available here, and that is the link to their Medium blog post. I wrote, in the statement, GoFundMe is indicating they are accepting refund requests until February 19th. After February 19th, GoFundMe is then going to donate the funds to a charity that meets their company's criteria instead of refunding the donors automatically. They're just going to take that money and just do whatever they want with it according to their agreement with the Freedom Convoy. And so why is this harmful? You know, why should the Attorney General care about this complaint? What's the problem with you? Well, there's a couple things. This is harmful to me. Why? Because, one, it requires me to take extra steps to obtain a refund, and it forces me to act very quickly. I've got to act by the end of their deadline. If I don't, I lose my opportunity to do that. Okay, and this may be simple for some people, but not for others. The other problem with this is it forces me to contact my network of friends who I suggested to donate to facilitate their refund process. Okay, so the Attorney General will come back and say, well, just go put your email in there, get your money back, and that's all. And you say, yeah, I know that, but we were generating funds for a lot of people. I've got a whole network of individuals out there that I've got to communicate to and spread this message. That's not my job. I am not GoFundMe. And so this is now causing me a lot of stress and anxiety. In addition to the loss of the money, I'm concerned that the people that I wanted to support are not being supported. And I'm also uncomfortable with the reallocation of my funds going to a charity that I do not support. So, in conclusion, I write, I am hopeful your office can resolve the situation to ensure the Freedom Truckers are funded or the monies are returned. Thank you. And we're always polite anytime we're interacting with these people. It's thank you, thank you, thank you. We go through, we make sure that we affirm that all the information herein is true and accurate, and we'll sign a statement if needed. If that is something that you're okay agreeing to, you check that box. You may send this complaint to the party named. By filing this complaint, you're saying, I give the business that I complained about consent to talk about this stuff. And you sign that puppy, date it, and boom, it gets printed out, mailed right over to California. The address is down in the description below. Copy, paste that puppy, print it out, and you're good to go. Now, they do give us some pointers, just so we're clear about this. Collection and use of personal information, page 3. The Public Inquiry Unit collects information on this form, and so they're going to hang on to it, right? It's a collection policy. Providing personal information, you actually do not have to provide the personal information requested. How about that? If you do not wish to provide any of that information, though, they can't contact you or help resolve your complaint. So you can actually leave it anonymous. Now, of course, a complaint that has a person's name on it, and especially if they happen to live in California, are going to carry a little bit more weight. But it could certainly be anonymous too. It says that according to this document. It says access to your information. You may review these records if you'd like. Possible disclosure of personal information. In order to follow up on your complaint, we may need to share the information with other government agencies. And so we may disclose it with other persons if they've got to do their legal duties, if another agency from the government requires them to do that for law enforcement purposes and those things. So just be advised, okay, you're working with the government on all of this. And if you have questions about any of this, you can contact these people. And all of this is down in the form in the description below. Couple fine points for the legal scholars out there. We can see here December 31st was the last revision of the GoFundMe terms of service. And so the form that I have created down below is created for GoFundMe in the United States. Okay, this is the United States complaint. And I think that this is applicable for basically everybody in the world because the company that you're complaining about is in California, and the Attorney General that you want to take action in this case is in California. This would be the jurisdiction that he would have purview over. But if you wanted to cause a stink in your own state, or your own country rather, if you're a user located outside the United States, like if you're in Canada or if you're in Australia, not in Australia or New Zealand, then you're going to be working with this organization, okay? This is GoFundMe Ireland. That's going to be the main central hub, but I'm not don't take this complaint and send it to Ireland. This is a California complaint. It goes to California. I'm saying this is for people who have a problem with GoFundMe in another country and they want to complain about GoFundMe to GoFundMe. There's a different location for that, right? It's a global company. And so if you're interested in any of that other sort of legal stuff, this is the section of the terms of service that you'd want to dive into. More information that verifies where this comes from. So, of course, you get a lot of the actual business information here. A lot of this verified by Bloomberg, same address here. See the chairman and the other executive team. And if you're concerned or just curious about where some potential issues may arise under California law, you easily can just refer over to Business and Professions Code, right? The BPC, we've got a section here, says section 17-200, as used in this chapter, unfair competition shall mean and include any unlawful, unfair, fraudulent business act or practice, and unfair, deceptive, untrue, misleading advertising, and any act prohibited by other parts of the law, right? And so you can see this type of language exists in California law. This might be a good jumping off point for anybody who, is interested in sort of diving deeper into this. And so the big question, of course, is, as a quick recap, if people are filing forms or considering it or sharing this video or whatever happens, California residents, right, are going to be the sort of the high priority individuals because they live there and, they're voters. And so the Attorney General is going to appreciate that. Then U.S. citizens, Canada, everybody else, right? You don't even have to say where you live. You can easily just file an anonymous complaint. The form even says you can do it. And of course, bigger donors, right? People that have higher dollar values are going to raise a little bit more eyeballs. Somebody that's attaching a receipt for $100,000, for example, or a $20,000 receipt, right? That's going to get a little bit more attention than somebody who is submitting a receipt for $25. And so you can consider that. Also, people with big audiences, okay? Remember, one of the points about one of the harms might be that you've got some work to do to untangle this. You recommend that everybody make donations. And now, because of what GoFundMe has done in making this decision and stealing this money, in my opinion, they are causing you to have to sort of put everything back in the box. And that's a very difficult task. And so this is the process. Simple form, 3 pages. Very easy. Available down in the description below, right next to the subscribe button. It is a good way to sort of voice your opinion out there. Their attorney generals are part of our state governments, and they field these types of complaints when businesses do unethical things, when your gym won't let you cancel your gym membership, and they do stuff that is just sort of unethical. It's a good idea to just let the Attorney General know, and maybe they'll take some action on this. This is the process for California, for GoFundMe. Hope you found that helpful. Would appreciate it if you liked this video before you got out of here and certainly shared it with somebody who might find it interesting, just like I find it interesting, and maybe do something with it. I look forward to hearing about your feedback on this video. Please let me know if you have any questions, thoughts, or concerns down in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.